right here on AM 1380 WYSH.
Hold on, folks. We're fixing it. There it is. 8 weeks, and I forgot how to turn my mic on. Anyway, it's been 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks since we've had a live show. Thank God the elections are over. We were exhausted. You can tell by our banner back here, we're back to the picture of nature back here, and we got a nice little home in the audience and no political banners for a few weeks, and it went well. I thought everybody participated in the county. We had a good time, and some won and some lost, but we're on to community events and other things we need to talk about. And tonight, we've got Circuit Judge Ryan Spitzer, a beneficiary of not having an opponent. That's fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. Best way to run a race.
That's right. So he did a great job, and we're going to talk tonight about drug court and the need and the impact for drug court. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. You know, felony drug court, which is the drug court, and then the options for misdemeanor drug court and why that's difficult to do. Talk about collateral substance abuse, what you're trying to achieve. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff. Now, I want to talk just a minute about the elections. We had 6,400 people vote. People were complaining about how low it was, but I had it projected about 6,000, 6,200. And I thought we would get, you know, the older, more traditional voter, and we did. And we had a couple of changes. Both of the incumbent sessions judges are going to be new. I think everywhere else, it was incumbents everywhere. Congratulations to whoever you are, and congratulations to those that tried to win and did not. They worked hard. We had a lot of hard workers. We got commission races that have changed, and we have a lot of those that will be coming on the show. We're going to change our format a little bit to allow some other people to come on the show that might more than just one as we get closer to the election. So you can hear from, like, say we do Clinton, if we do Clinton commissioners. Still tired. Clinton commissioners, and we're going to bring all three of the candidates on, and you get to pick two in every district. So we're going to try to do different things with different districts and try to open it up. If I do one-on-one with one, I have to do it with the others by FCC regulations, and it's hard to get everybody together. So we're going to try to create a little bit different format in the months of June and July, at least for those 2 months. What's going on? How's it going, Ryan? Good?
Yeah, things are moving along. We're getting into the flow of jury trials. You know, I started as soon as I got appointed last summer.
Has it been that long?
It has. It's been almost a full year. Yeah.
Gosh, oh my.
Yeah.
I remember the day. It was a good day.
That's it. We jumped right back into trying to get jury trials moving, both on the criminal side and the civil side. So that's moving along well.
A lot of good praise. And hadn't had any hitches, really. Everybody's happy. And, you know, I was involved in our good friend Sandra Donahue
campaign down in Bradley County, and they think the world of her. And one of her, she has 4 counties. She has Polk, McMinn, Monroe, and Bradley. And she's an outspoken advocate for drug court too.
General Donaghy, Judge Donaghy, she's absolutely fantastic. You know, she was my supervisor in the DA's office for a lot of years.
That's why I brought it up.
I learned from her. Yeah, I learned from her, and she was fantastic. I was excited to see her win her election 8 years ago.
Yeah, won again.
And
great candidate.
She is hugely committed to drug court.
Yes.
She even has a new special variant of drug court,
really?
which she calls the Rocks docket. Yeah, which is really impressive and something I'm looking at trying to model sometime
What's the
in
rock?
the future.
Now, I
So
remember
she-
Judge Layton always had the rocket docket.
Right,
Well,
absolutely.
this is
yeah.
the rock
To
docket.
move Sessions Court, sure. So there's the high risk, high need folks that are in your standard recovery court, and then there's a
that's
other
a
sort of
2-year program.
It's a 2-year program, right? And then there's another sort of the part of the lower risk community that needs a different kind of treatment approach. And I still need to get fully briefed from her on how exactly
How to
she
do
runs
it,
that.
the rocks, yeah.
But I know she's making a lot of progress there.
So it's a 2-year program
Yes, sir.
in lieu of jail?
It's meant to be the last opportunity before prison.
I got you.
When you
All
go-
felonies.
Yes, you've got to be on a 2-year sentence, and almost always that's going to mean a felony. Potentially, you could stack misdemeanor consecutive sentences.
Yeah, if you had a VOP.
And have long enough to get there.
Yeah.
But in general, our recovery court is geared towards, okay, this is your last chance to get on a better path before prison.
I go out and rob a bank and I smoke dope. Do I get in the program?
Violent crimes are an automatic disqualifier.
Okay.
So if you've got any kind of domestic assault conviction, or if you've got any kind of felony violent crime charges, that's an automatic disqualifier.
Interesting.
Now, we're looking for the people that really have a legitimate substance problem, and that what crimes they're committing are really just to sort of feed that habit. So misdemeanor thefts.
But how do you get a felony charge if you kind of eliminated half of the felonies up front?
Sure. Well, you get people that have, felony evading or felony theft, or you can have a lot of different felony charges. We carefully screen the folks. Of course, we see a lot of people with felony drug charges.
Yeah.
And we carefully
Because
screen
of the
those
quantity
folks.
of drugs they have, or because
Yeah.
they sell, or whatever it is.
And a lot of people in our rural Anderson County, they're selling to support their own habit. So
Right.
they both have a drug addiction and they've got a large felony amounts of drugs. And so we try to filter who's the legit hardcore drug dealer that needs to go to prison versus who's the person with a substance abuse problem who's also selling on the side.
What's the intake process
needs to
like?
be-
Everybody's going to want to do it because they don't want to go to prison. So what's the intake process like?
Sure. So
Who does that?
So typically a person's in jail, they're waiting on their VOP, violation of probation, to get resolved, or they're waiting for the plea bargain process on their felony charges.
They're already in jail.
Yeah, and they know they've got enough of a criminal history that they're maybe looking at prison as an alternative, and they're also struggling with their own addiction issues. So they might pick up a jail flyer, which is given out at the jail by the jail staff. It's just a little pamphlet. They fill out some very basic information, and that starts the application process.
Just not necessarily guaranteeing, but at least they'll get their interview.
Right. The very first thing that happens after that, once their defense attorney's on board and they apply for drug court, is the DA's office does a criminal history screening to make sure they don't have any automatic disqualifiers like violent crime convictions.
How many people are in a program in a given year? 15, 20?
It can run anywhere from 6, 7, 8 to Judge Sexton up in Campbell County, who's got I think 4 different counties.
Retiring?
Yeah, retiring.
Shane's
And a
retiring?
fantastic judge. He's been around for a long, long time. I had the honor of appearing before him once or twice with pro tem cases when I was a prosecutor. In fact, I went up there to watch his drug court and see how he does things. But he's committed to it, and he's got 35 participants.
Right.
We're working. In addition to our regular drug court meetings, we're having special staff meetings to work on how do we improve participation, how do we recruit more people to actually sign on for the drug court process, because we believe so strongly we can help people. But we're looking at, how do we get more minority applicants? How do we get more female applicants? How do we get more applicants in general? One of the things that our graduates do, our participants who are close to graduation, is they go speak at the jail about how drug court has helped them and helped them turn their lives around. And that's a huge recruiting tool to try to let the jail population know we're here and we want to help.
Judge Elledge was really big on drug court along. Of course, Sander was there, and I know General Clark is. So, and he's been a big advocate for rehab and different issues, and we give him a lot of credit. I guess the question is, how many people have graduated in the 10 years or so of the program? When did you start the program? Not you, but
Judge Elledge has had this program probably since right after he took office back in
07?
06, maybe, something like that.
So we've had that
vehicle for that long a time.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. And he's been firmly committed to it for years. It's something, even as a prosecutor, I would plead people and give them drug court as an opportunity to not have to go to prison.
You had a good reputation for working with people. That's true.
You try to be fair. But he's always been committed to it. And even in the selection process, back when we were going through the appointment process with the governor, I was clear about my commitment to drug court. This is something I really want to keep going.
How many people have been through the program? We're guessing.
Oh,
How many graduates?
We probably put, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd say 20, 25 a year goes through. You're lucky if you graduate 3 or 4.
Sure.
You watch real carefully the recidivism after graduation.
Because people drop off, they don't want to do the work.
Sure,
They
sure.
think it's
And one of the really tough things about drug addiction is people go back to the same environments.
That's what we said when I used to give talks on this. I'd say it's the collateral issues that defeat you. You get fired up, you go to jail, you've been there 90 days, you get out, you're clean, you feel good, and you go back to your cousin and your brother and the guy down the street, and everybody's getting high, and here you are, stuck. Got no friends that don't use. That's tough.
Sure.
And you need money for different things. You have no place to live if you don't stay with those guys, and it's hard. It's really hard.
I will never forget, I had a young lady that I prosecuted years ago. Knoxville News Sentinel ran an article, a feature article. She was cover page of the Knoxville News Sentinel, and it all had all her jail booking photos, And she looked young and healthy in the early photos, and then she looked, where you could tell drugs had sort of taken its toll. And we pled her. We put her on, I think, 20 years of probation, but sent her to the Nashville Drug Court program, which is a fantastic, even more intensive than ours.
Nashville's the best.
Residential program. She graduated, did a fantastic job, came out and was counseling other people, all of that, living a great life in Nashville. But she came back home and got back into old environments, and before long she was back on violations of probation. And you hate to see that, and I think I dealt with her 2 or 3 different times on violations of probation, giving her increasing amounts of jail time, saying, look, you got to pick which path you want to be on. It's either prison eventually, or you're going to have to get back on the right track.
When I was in the business, we saw meth in the rural areas. We saw crack in the urban areas. And it wasn't much, and the crack people would come into probation. They would say, I'm not a great person. Mother didn't raise no fool. I ain't putting rat poison in my body. and you get the other side saying something. It's kind of interesting, the selection of drugs. That leads me to the question of what's the drugs that we're challenged with right now? I don't hear about crack much anymore.
No, it's still out there.
Fentanyl kind of took over, I guess.
Right. It's a constantly evolving battlefield, and I hate to use that term battlefield because the war on crime has gotten a bad reputation and really hadn't played out with the victory we'd hoped for. But, we tried to get a handle on manufacturing methamphetamines at home, and we put a lockdown on Sudafed to make it harder to get that, and the anhydrous ammonia for the cooks and, in their backyards. And then you've got methamphetamine from Mexico that's being, the raw materials are being imported from China, manufactured in
Cartel bringing it
in Mexico, smuggled across the border, much higher quality, much more dangerous, much more addictive, pure ice type methamphetamine that's really a problem.
Well, the big thing with meth was it wasn't expensive to make. They were cooking here, putting all the junk together, and we were trying to, you're trying to cap their purchases in retail environments to kind of slow them down, and now we're talking about an international presence in the business. That's crazy.
There's a fantastic author who followed the cartel for decades, and he wrote a fascinating book about how they used to make a ton of money shipping really poor quality marijuana into the United States.
Yes.
It was a huge money maker for them. But then as America started to legalize marijuana, and you could get much higher quality marijuana grown right here in America, the cartel started to lose huge profits, right? So they look for a different option to recoup those monies, and they bring back heroin. Right, so you see this surge over the last 10 years of heroin, right? And as if heroin's not bad enough, now it's being laced with fentanyl, which is extremely dangerous end-of-life type. You're in hospice, eat up with cancer, and they're just trying to calm your pain, right? That's what fentanyl's meant for, but now it's getting put into the heroin. And a lot of the people that are using the heroin don't even know they're taking fentanyl.
Oh, no.
They don't even know it's in there.
I've had a few friends' kids die.
Sure.
Let's take a break. We're going to take our first break, Chandler, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Ryan Spitzer's background.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
What if one day you went to your secret hiding place and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/know-the-risks.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Welcome back. Now we have to answer the question, who is Ryan Spitzer? Now, I know Ryan very well. Over the last year, we've become good friends, and we worked on a lot of stuff. But I'm going to tell you, it's a great story. But we're not going to go into all of the story. But I'm going to tell you, how many people do you know that went from community college to Vanderbilt? I mean, it don't happen. It don't happen. It don't happen. You may get a scholarship to Tennessee Tech or UT, but Vandy doesn't recruit from community colleges, folks. But he was so smart and so talented that he grew up in enough of a challenged environment. He went to community college, was in the Army. I'm telling your story instead of you telling it, but it's a great story. So we're going to start with, where did you grow up? What city did you grow up in?
Jackson, Tennessee. Really a little town called Humboldt, right outside of Jackson.
It's not that small. We play them in basketball sometimes. So you grew up in Humboldt. How'd that go?
It went good. It went good. I've still got a lot of family back there. Still try to get home when I can.
And you went to what high school?
I went to a bunch of different high schools, mainly North Side in Jackson. Yeah,
it's a pretty good school.
My grandmother was the manager of the cafeteria there for probably 25 years.
So you got extra food?
I wish.
That's a good one. Okay, so she was there. You were growing up in the Jackson area, Humboldt and all that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. You graduate from high school. You go straight to community college?
Yeah, actually.
Or did you go to the Army? Did you get a job?
Well, my father had a job up in Warren County in McMinnville, which is this side of Nashville. Yeah,
yep.
And that's where I actually graduated from high school from. And I was committed to going to the military, but I had a little issue with my knee, having trouble getting in on active duty. Had an uncle who happened to be a National Guard recruiter, and he helped me through the process so I could join the National Guard, become a medic, still with an eye towards active duty, and eventually maybe going to med school. But then I went to junior college, and I took my first poli-sci class from a big husky fella named Dr. Fry. He had a beard, and he was really passionate about John Locke and Thomas Hobbes and the origins of government. Sure. And I just ate it all up and changed my path, and here I am.
So
How did Vanderbilt accept you? What did you do did you forge something, or did you use somebody else's resume? Or I mean, you take, even if it's all A's, if you go to community college, it's got to be some test scores in there.
I like to joke that Vanderbilt, is in Tennessee, and they probably figured they need to take a couple of us local boys just to be nice.
Right.
So you just do the best you can on the LSAT, and you work hard through college.
So a good grade on the LSAT, but you went to undergrad at Vandy too, didn't you?
No, I did undergrad at a little school called Lambeth.
These aren't little lists. We know Lambeth in Jackson.
In Jackson.
So I got it. So that makes more sense. Mm-hmm. So you had that, and then you had the Lambeth, and you got a good LSAT, and you got in.
That's it. Yes, sir.
I'm guessing 164.
Close. 163. I was dead. I was dead on the average.
Give
for
me some
my
TV
class.
here, Chandler. Tell him I got it. 1 point. You hear that, son? That's what I'm talking about. He picked 9 straight winners in the NBA playoffs.
Oh, wow.
He's done something. He loves sports. Anyway, so you went to Lambeth. You got the high grade, because usually state schools are 153, 154, 155 is the normal.
Oh, I don't know.
So
we got a lot of
163
great
is
law
pretty
schools
strong.
around here.
Oh, we really do. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
You
One
know.
thing I'm always quick to say is the very first trial I lost was to a graduate from the Nashville School of Law who was on his second career.
Yeah.
And really, if you're going to practice in Tennessee, they've got a lot of great judges and practicing
let me tell you
attorneys
something.
on their staff. It's a smart move to go there.
Les Hunt from the Public Defender's Office, retired Judge Elledge, and I think it was right. They used to commute down there and stay and come back in the early 80s and stuff to get their law degree. I mean,
Well, Rhonda Lee, who I think just won
I helped her on her
slot over there in
campaign,
Knoxville. Yeah, she went to Nashville School
I
of Law.
didn't know that. We love Rhonda. That's a hard-working woman. Let me tell you
she
something.
clerked for the DA's office when she was going to Nashville.
And I have a lot of I have a lot of political clients, as you well know, and I tell you, and she was actually, I was just assisting someone else. And I tell you, she is a great worker, hard worker. I love Rhonda. She's good.
And always a pleasant personality.
Oh, yeah. I don't know her that well. You know her better. But she was very complimentary of everybody in Anderson County. She used to practice her a lot. Doesn't come in as much. Did she ever come into your court?
I had quite a few cases when I was with the DA's office, and she was a defense attorney.
But not
I've seen her
year.
a couple of times.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. To get to Judge Spitzer's office, you got to go up through 3 security gates. He's got the big one in the middle on the 3rd floor. He's got the poor Nikki, who has equal status, is over here in the chancellor. I mean, she likes that, though. She likes the little limelight, I think, Chancellor Cantrell. But she does a great job, too.
I actually was talking to the sheriff today about security issues in the courthouse, and he's doing a really good job of making sure we've got the staff we need. Chancellor Cantrell, she does all of the orders of protection for outside of Oak Ridge, and there's a lot of opportunity for chaos to happen, for instance, in the hallway. So the sheriff's taking good care of us, and Nikki's doing a fantastic job.
Oh, she does.
Always has. Always.
But now we got, we have incoming Victoria Bowen as a sessions judge, who's 53 years old, I believe. All of the other 4 judges are in their 40s. It's transition. It's done. I mean, it's a whole new generation. We just call her the old one, or something.
I'm not calling her
Let's
that.
give Victoria a nickname like that, like, the old shoe or something, Yeah. Oh, Lord have her. She certainly worked hard in her campaign, did a good job.
Victoria's a very pleasant lady,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had a bunch of cases with her when she was with the Public Defender's Office, and, I'm sure we'll work well together. So.
She'll be fine. Everybody said, and let's congratulate Judge Miller on a good 8 years. I mean, everybody was worried when he first came. He just was a pleasant judge to work with. Knoxville attorneys, everybody liked him. So most people adapt to the job. I think they adapt to the job and they learn it and they do well. It's a little harder at your level because, we used to say that if you mess up in Sessions Court, it'll go to Judge Elledge and he'll fix it. Now it goes to Judge Spitzer and he fixes it. So that's the way the procedures work. So you get to Vandy Law School. A lot of Hal Cousins went to Vanderbilt. I think he went to UT Law because we played sports together when he was in UT Law. We had an intramural team that won the football championship. Me, Cousins, got over at UT in the mid-'70s, but I was undergrad. But I know he went to Vandy as a graduate. There's some other Vanderbilt law people.
General Abbott in the DA's office, she did her undergrad at
Emily
Vanderbilt.
did?
Yeah,
Wow.
sure did. Yeah, and then went to UT Law School.
She acts smart, doesn't she? Yeah, Emily. She's the best. My wife, Sabra, loves Emily Abbott. She just thinks she's great. So anyway. But we got a lot of work. So everybody participates in the drug court.
Sure. There's a lot of folks on that team. We meet at 8 a.m. every Monday morning and talk specifically about each of our participants. How did they do over the last week? What's going on with their jobs, their family, their residence situation? How did they pass their drug test? Did
How
they go
often
to
do
their
they
meetings?
take drug tests?
At least once a week.
Wow.
It's pretty frequent when we can do randoms. We're trying to do more randoms in the evenings and on the weekends. Of course, everybody's struggling with staffing issues like at the jail and that sort of thing.
I just wish McDonald's could get them straightened out. I mean, there's some bigger priorities in the world. When you can't get a Big Mac and have to wait 20 minutes for your sandwich, life is tough. I mean, that's what I think. But I'm nobody. But anyway, your bailiff's one of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Weaver?
Joe Weaver, fantastic.
Pastor, good man, always working hard.
Holds a PhD.
Yeah.
Is a retired Army colonel with a Bronze Star. I am incredibly fortunate to have him as my bailiff.
He's a little more serious than some people. I like that. Yeah, he brags about you. Every time I come in the courthouse, he's there, and he works down there with the security team. He's always the one standing up doing work, and they all work pretty hard. I don't want to say it like he's better, but I really think you got a real diamond in that gentleman. You get in the courtroom, you're in there, you getting along, everybody's getting along.
Oh yeah, you know it's you mentioned Judge Miller. It's amazing how much the judge's personalities and demeanor sort of drives the whole environment. You know, and one of the things I tried to do very early on was have a real steady hand to the whole approach and keep all of the good systems in place that Judge Elledge had established, not come in and make a bunch of changes. You don't want to be schizophrenic about it and change it one week, change it back the next, you know.
That's right.
Judge Miller, for instance, you know, had a good, pleasant demeanor in the courtroom, you know, and I'm sure Judge Tucker
never had a
will
bad
too.
day.
Yeah.
It was just the same all the time. And I've told people that I've worked with judges, clients I've had around the state, consistency is the key. It's okay if you speak French if you do it every day. They'll figure it out, you know. But if you go from language to language, it's tough. It's just a different world.
And Matt Tuck, the incoming judge, you know, he's got a fantastic personality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even and smooth, he'll be great.
Yeah, and I think it's just everybody learning to keep up and do their thing and work with you and different things like that, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to take one more break, and then two more, but this will be the first one here at the halfway point. We're going to talk a little bit more about drugs in Anderson County and the challenges that the court's seeing and everything else. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hesse. Alex was about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was playing man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hesse, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back. We're talking to Circuit Court Judge Ryan Spitzer about drug court and other rehab programs and things that go on in the courthouse. But going back to a personal note, you're married, you have 2 sons, you're married to one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Oh, yeah.
I love Tracy.
Yeah, she's fierce.
Yeah, she is. She's fierce is probably not the word that encapsulates the whole thing. It's, I don't know what it would be, but I'm married to someone like Tracy and Sabra, who was lucky enough to pass on to the finals of the commission race, but in our district. But Tracy's just, Tracy doesn't put up with much like Sabra.
I like the word fierce because she's a big fan of that Shakespeare quote about, though she be but little, she is fierce,
Because she okay.
And both of our wives are, kind of tiny little firebrands. They just go after it 24/7.
Yeah, and your wife, and they're both tough, but your wife is more of a kind of a suburban, got that Irish, got that, that kind of, she reminds me kind of somebody from Chicago suburbs or somewhere. My wife is from over the mountain in the holler down by the creek. I mean, she's a tough girl, man, I'm telling you. But I love your family. The boys are great. And Rose getting ready to go to Jefferson?
Oh, yeah. We were just at parent orientation just a few minutes ago, so.
Mom's taking care of that. She's taking names.
She's finishing it up. Yes, sir.
I got your name. I can see Tracy's. I'll be calling you some. And that's it. And then the Spitfire, he's still at...
oh, yeah, my little one, Keegan. He's still at Woodland, and he's just living the dream.
Star Wars Masters.
Oh, yeah.
They are definitely that. So that is good. And I saw Tracy's parents, the great Patty Ock, if you know Patty, and her husband, Roshan. They're back in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They
come
couldn't
back.
wait to run, could they?
Yeah, they were down there, and they just came back this past weekend.
So they're going to stay here during the summer?
They'll stay here for a while, yes, sir.
That's effective. I mean, they're very big. They got to be a huge help with the kids.
Oh,
Ron's
absolutely.
such a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great guy. They got good people around you. That helps you. But you're working a lot of hours. We have a lot of campaigns say not enough hours, this and that, and they go all over the scope. But my wife likes to joke that you get there about 7:30 or 8 and you don't come home till 7:30 or 8. You're in there studying, you're looking around the corner. So you've been looking a lot of hours to get orientated the last year, almost a year.
Sure, yeah, almost a year. Well, there's a lot of important cases that come in front of me, and to each litigant, their case is the most important in the world, and you got to know what you're talking about before you get up there. And so there's a lot of civil stuff that I've not done for a long time, back before I was a prosecutor. So I want to put that extra effort into it and make sure I'm ready.
So we're jumping around a little bit. They secured the courthouse. It's got one entrance. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite meetings in the courthouse has always been the security meeting. Everybody's got some kind of gripe about something. So, well, we want this or we want that, and the sheriff wants it, nobody wants this, et cetera, et cetera. So what are we doing for security as a whole? What is the security? Now, you guys got money. We never had any money because, you got all that internet tax money coming in, so you guys got some money. Are you making improvements?
So there are a lot of limitations on how we can use that money. So, for instance, I mentioned I was talking to the sheriff about it today.
The security money or the internet tax money?
The security money.
Okay.
We can't, for instance, pay to have an extra bailiff, out of that. We can't pay hourly wages out of that. So it's sort of a constant effort for the sheriff's department to provide adequate security, but have enough, stay within their budget limitations. And they still have to, sometimes they've got to pull guys off a civil process in order to backfill for the alarm, for the.
But didn't reserves do a lot of that work? Don't reserves do some of that work, the volunteers?
They may, but I've not seen many reserve officers lately.
In COVID, that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it would be, et cetera, et cetera. You deal with any most of your cases come from the Sessions Court, or they're directly filed in your court. What's your docket like? Is it large, small?
Oh, sure. Well, my docket is probably 85% criminal. Probably 2/3 of it or more comes out of Sessions Court, different sorts of bound over cases. But there are always things that law enforcement chooses to take by direct presentment. Mm-hmm. So really document intensive cases, if you've got the bookkeeper stealing money from the church and there's 5,000 pages worth of bank records for that, rather than drag all that through Sessions, they might just go direct presentment.
If I sue you for $24,000, I can sue you in Miller's court or Layton's court. But if I sue you for $26,000, I'm over the limit. I got to go straight to you.
It's got to come to me. Yes. So I get a lot of car wrecks. I get a lot of what we used to call med mal. Now we call it healthcare liability cases, we get those. We get a lot of appeals.
So it went from medical malpractice to healthcare liability.
Yeah. The terminology is always changing. Like on drug court, we're trying really hard to use the term recovery court now. That's the new thing, is to call it recovery court. So
that's fair.
Yeah, the nomenclature always changes. But I get a lot of sessions appeals. Somebody will lose in sessions and they bring it on up on appeal. So I rehear
10 days
it.
to file. Yeah, sure. And that's a good thing. All right, tell us a little bit about, and this will take some time, but that's okay. I want to know what 2 years of drug court is. I go to drug court. I'm in prison. Tell me what their lives are like. What do they do? Do you have stages?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are 4 phases.
4 phases over 2 years?
That they move through.
Got it.
So you'll hear us sometimes talk about someone, they're in phase 2, they're about ready to move up to phase 3. But here's sort of the overview of the process. You're usually in jail, serving time, waiting on a resolution to either your violation of probation or your pending new charges, right?
Okay.
You're looking at least some kind of 2-year sentence because you have to have that much time for the program.
Sure.
The program generally requires you spend at least 30 days in jail, sort of as an initial detox effort. And then from there, you go to a residential treatment bed somewhere. So we may use Hope House, for instance, and you go to an actual residential rehabilitation program for 30 to 45 days. And then transition out of that to some kind of transitional housing or halfway house.
Can it be their
situation?
Parents or somebody that's...
Normally not.
Okay.
We want people to go from that intensive setting to sort of ease down to some kind of halfway house or transitional housing. And then we look for where to transition them to after that. Sometimes that's grandmama's house.
Yeah, but here's what that said. Knowing the budgets and knowing how state government works, that sounds expensive.
There's a lot. It's all really like grant funded. I don't think we're using.
But even for the state of Tennessee or the federal government,
money.
yeah, well, I understand. But still, you got to have a rehab house here. You got to have that's tough.
Sure. Most of those places like Hope House, CCS, different places that we can enroll people, they're grant funded.
Yes, they are. But here's the question. The question is beds. Do you always have beds?
Beds are always the problem.
Yeah.
And not only the beds, but the quality of the facility. We're always keeping an eye on, who's already currently there. Is the person we're trying to put there, do they know and already have bad issues with somebody that's already there?
That's a good point.
And the counselors, on our team that meets every morning at 8 a.m., I've got 3 different representatives from Ridgeview that do different parts of their programs, either 2 or 3, depending on the week. My director for drug court, my bailiff, who's holds a PhD, he's on it. Captain Val from the jail, who has tremendous insight into, people's backgrounds and can help us with transportation issues, getting people to treatments and stuff. The public defender, the district attorney, 2 representatives from ETHRA, one of which is a licensed social worker.
ETHRA is the East Tennessee Resource Agency.
Human Resources Agency,
correct.
Yes. And they do a lot of the direct daily
stuff.
Contact counseling kind of stuff. So we've got a pretty big group, and we are all huddled up talking about, how's everybody doing week to week, talking about each individual person. And then all the new applicants. We've got 4 or 5 people that are waiting in the wings in various places in the introduction process.
We only take people from Anderson County Jail?
We had a lady who was in the Roane County Jail, and they reached out to us. She failed out of their misdemeanor drug court program. They wanted to transfer her over here, which was going to work for us because she had a 2-year sentence here anyway.
Yeah.
Already, she was on probation. But things didn't work out in Roane County, and they let her out of jail for some other reason. We weren't able to get her in our program. We wanted to help. We're still happy to help Roane County if they want us.
Misdemeanor program in Roane County. What does that mean?
So a handful of misdemeanor general sessions courts.
I helped set one up in Memphis. I know what you're saying.
Across the state have different kinds of drug court programs.
And they were trying to get started here. It really hadn't kicked off.
Sure. Yeah. And
or has it?
Well, I know Judge Layton was working hard to try to get that program up and rolling. He'd been thinking about it for a while, and I had offered to help him in different ways.
Years ago.
Yeah, and still happy to help Judge Bowling whenever she's
and Judge
ready.
Layton's, let's be fair, Judge Layton's here another 4 months, and
Sure.
so is Judge Miller, and they're still doing good work. And okay, so you get there. Some addicts harder than others?
You know, everybody's got their own struggles. It's not just your drug of choice, which of course we keep up with. It's you know, what kind of medications are available. Like, can you, if your drug of choice is heroin, can you take Vivitrol to try to stay off of that? You know, a lot of it's personality driven, and how committed is the individual to their recovery, and willing to put the work in. And then some people put the work in for a while, and then they get kind of burnt out and tired on the program. Or worse yet, you get to feel like, oh, I got this licked. I don't need to keep going to meetings. I don't need to keep jumping through all these hoops. And we're like, oh yeah, you do, because that's when the addiction starts talking to you, you know, and you start to backslide.
Men population in the program versus women.
Well, right now I've got all males. I've got a couple of females that are in the application process. We actually bring people in for interviews, and that little committee that meets at 8 o'clock in the morning, they actually interview the applicant and say, you know, tell us your story, tell us your history, why are you wanting this program? And you get a really good insight into, you know, sort of how they're wired. And
I always found the defendants with children are more motivated.
Well, you would hope so. You would absolutely hope so.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah. Do you find that? Do you have a lot of, like, males are more, you know, they're less maternal, obviously. They're more paternal. They're making money and providing something is more important, I guess, than maybe taking care of kids as much. I don't know.
I got probably half of my drug court participants right now have children, and we talk to them about, you know, how things are going with their families. Are they getting to spend time with their kids?
Do they get to spend time with their kids?
Sure. Once they get out of the residential and then the halfway house, the transition housing, and they get to a stable, or they got their own apartment, or they're living with their parents, or whatever that situation is, then absolutely we want them to rekindle their relationships.
Order of protection, keep them out of it? That's a civil thing.
Absolutely, it can. I mean, if you're under a court order, you know, that you're not allowed to have contact with your ex-wife or your children or whoever.
Would the program try to deal with that if it didn't seem?
We would largely leave that to counsel. Or to the judge who put down the order of protection.
So it's up to the lawyer to get that dropped if he wants to get his client in the program. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes good sense.
And some of those expire after a year, and they're in a better place, and then the person who sought the order of protection originally might not seek an extension or a new order.
Oldest person to ever go through the program that you can remember?
Oh, I have a guy now that he's probably well into his 60s, or at least close to 60. It's hard to tell because the lifestyle can take such a toll.
Yeah, it looks 70 and it's really 55.
He actually came, he violated our Anderson County drug court policies, was this close to going to prison, but we found him a bed at the Morgan County Regional, which is a lot like the Nashville drug court. It's a really intensive residential program in Morgan County.
That's part of their prison program over there?
Yeah, so we were able to transfer him to Morgan County drug court to get him a even more intensive last step, you know.
Interesting.
And you get to like these folks.
Oh,
you know,
sure,
you talk to them every week. You interact with them. You see them at their places of work. You know, when you're just out about the town on the weekend. You know, and you develop, you know, a genuine desire to want to help them turn their lives around.
Sure.
You know,
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard when you lose people like that and they fall. But that's all you can do is keep trying.
Yeah.
You got to try. Be faithful to what you're trying to do. But if that's the oldest, are most of your clients 25, 35?
Yeah, I got a lot of guys that are in their, you know, mid to late 20s, early 30s. That's kind of the sweet spot for you're starting to accumulate enough charges that you're really looking at now having to go to prison, you know, if you don't get off this path. And then you kind of hope they choose, hey, let me try to turn things around.
I mean, most people, all the stuff I've read over the years, most people, drugs are medicating for them. You know, I take drugs. I don't take drugs just to feel good. I take drugs because I don't want to remember something. You know, it's a self-medication. And if you don't get after the collateral problems, it's hard to keep them off of that. And when we were kids, it was alcohol. Everybody, there wasn't much drugs in our world. There was somebody drank at the corner bar, and that was it. And that's self-medication for a bad childhood or whatever else. So I guess it's really kind of challenging in drug court, because if there's underlying issues, they're going to have to deal with those underlying issues.
Sure, and we look at applicants who have different kinds of underlying mental health issues or different things that we need to see. Are they going to be a good fit for the program? Can they continue to treat their other mental health issues in addition to their substance abuse issues? How do you make all that fit together? But people end up addicted to drugs for all kinds of reasons. I had a lady a long time ago, had a good bachelor's degree, a good paying career, and had a car wreck and started taking pain meds. And the next thing you know, she's addicted and off the rails.
We had some nurses like that in the late 90s and everything. Same thing.
Sure.
I mean, top level people, plant people.
I've had a situation like that in my own family. With a family member who had a good career, ended up messing with pills and other things. Thank God she managed to turn that around, and is in a much better place. But there's hardly a family in Anderson County anymore that's not touched by it.
It's different. Chandler, you're the boss. Let's go to break. Last break, and we'll finish up with our last segment. Thank you for watching.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
What if one day you went to your secret hiding place, and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/know-the-risks.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. I want to thank everybody for watching. We're here every Thursday night from 7 to 8 p.m., and we've got some great shows coming. Sean Williams is coming back soon, who is, if you remember his show, he talked about China and Russia and the threats that face the United States. Brilliant guy. He'll be coming on. We got some other people coming on from Rome County in different areas. So we're going to hit it full speed ahead. You're talking about drug court and getting people out of jail, but people in county jail, people don't realize it, but prisoners that have 6 months, a year, they want to go to state prison because they got better programs, they got better facilities, they got other stuff. So what are we doing for those people in our jails to get them help, even if they don't qualify for this program? Do we have programs within Anderson County Jail?
So for a long time, there was a concern that if people were in the jail and they were waiting for hearings on their cases, that if you put them in some kind of treatment, they might say something that incriminated them somehow and might be used against them, either in their VOP hearing or their jury trial, whatever. So there was a rule for years that no one could be in the jail programs until after their case had been fully adjudicated. Once your VOP is resolved or you've actually pled guilty, then you can go to the treatment programs. But that leaves out, probably more than 2/3 of your jail population.
You know what the problem with that is? The punishment's usually dealt out on the front end, because you get into court and you don't get to, and you don't get to go to your case doesn't come up for 9 months. And you end up time served.
That's it.
And you never had a chance.
And you never got any kind of treatment.
That's exactly right.
So one of the first things I did after talking with the drug court staff was to put together an order that basically made the treatment programs confidential so that people could participate in them before their cases were adjudicated. And Judge Layton, Judge Miller, Judge Hunt in juvenile court, they all signed off, including the district attorney and the public defender, so that we could get these people into treatment programs while they were spending those 9 months in jail waiting on their case to get resolved.
It could be longer than that on a felony. I remember some people have been there a year and a half before they get to it, serious cases.
And just this week, I went to the MRT graduation, which is moral recognition therapy. It's one of the main programs in the jail.
I had to send people to Memphis, I remember. They only trained them in Memphis in those days.
That's
I'm
right.
sure it's different now.
We had 10 men that had gone through intensive programs, and they're graduating, and they had their families there, and it was really a touching moment.
And they have the graduation once every year whenever somebody comes through. And
they've got one coming up for the females, I think, in another month or so. They're about to finish their program.
What are some of the things in the jail that you get educationally? Ministerial programs in the jail?
They do have some faith-based programs. They've got education programs. They've got a lot of different, not only substance abuse things, but anger management and relationship management classes.
That's the one we need.
Because a lot of times it's the interactions with people that set people off.
Make crimes, sure. That's excellent observation. That's true. Let's talk about not everybody can be redeemed. Some people need to go to prison. And the public thinks everybody does pretty much, but you have a reputation for being tougher on serious crime, and that you've actually dealt with VOPs differently than in the past. Explain a little bit about how you're taking charge on that.
Sure. Well, rehabilitation is just a huge thing nationwide here in Tennessee, something the governor's hugely committed to, something I'm hugely committed to, is trying to help people get on a better path. Sure. And that's not just for them, but that's for the taxpayers too.
Sure.
We don't want to feed and house folks if we can help them get good jobs and be good citizens. But out of your total population of folks that come through the criminal justice system, there is a percentage that just probably really needs to be in prison, because they're out hurting folks, they're committing violent crimes, they're doing really egregious things, and so it's identifying these folks, through the process and making sure the public is protected from them. But then these other folks need some form of carrot and stick, kind of how do we get them on a better path. One of the things I've done here is, as I've shut down this revolving door on violations of probation, instead of picking up a violation of probation and then getting right back out on bond and then picking up an amendment for your violation and getting right back on bond, I have instituted a policy where if your violation is based on any significant new offense, or if you've absconded and not reported to your probation officer for more than a month or so, I'm going to hold you on no bond until we hear your violation of probation.
Which can take a little bit. Yeah.
That's to cut down on that. You get a DUI, but you get right back out. You get a theft charge, but you get right back out. You get caught with drugs, but you get right back out. I can't do it on, obviously, people who've not yet been convicted of anything. They're entitled to the presumption of innocence. But once you've actually pled guilty and been put on probation, now the court has more ability to hold people accountable.
And I'm not naming names, but there's a lot of judges that just keep putting people back on the streets in the state and everywhere. I'm resentencing you to another 2 years or another year, and they don't do significant jail time. And they're motivated by the state to do that and to keep people out. But you're right. I mean, somebody beats up a police officer, beats up their mother, steals thousands of dollars from people. They don't need to be on the street. And we're not talking about any particular case. We're talking about in general. The law's there for a purpose. Tell us what you think about the What's the new thing called? Truth and sentencing?
Truth and sentencing, sure.
Interesting.
I know General Clark's been an advocate for truth and sentencing for years and years and has pushed for that. And all it really at its core means is if you're going to give somebody a 10-year sentence, let it be a 10-year sentence, or at least tell the victims and the witnesses and all the other folks, if it's really not a 10-year sentence, if they're really going to get out in 2.6 years, tell them that, because on the federal side, for instance,
it's 85%.
You get sentenced and they tell you exactly how many months in incarceration and exactly how much probation on the back end.
That's right.
Yeah. On the state side, it's a...
Well, Class 1's 30%.
It's a 30%, it's a 35%. There's special good time behavior credits and 2-for-1s where, a day of good behavior in the prison system may count as 2 days, depending on how the TDOC does the math. So what looks like a 10 or 12-year sentence ends up being something much, much shorter.
And it's particularly important when there's a victim.
Hugely important. It's one thing to have a drug problem and be harming yourself, but when you're out here stealing from folks, committing violent crimes, impacting the general public,
and somebody comes in and testifies against you, they kind of like them to be in jail for a while.
Yeah, that's
if the law permits. We're not trying to. You're just trying to enforce the law as it comes. So it's good that you're taking those things serious.
And now there's a huge process you have to go through sentencing. There's a lot of opportunities for people to get judicial diversion. One time in your life, our legislature has said you can plead guilty, do your probation, pay your fine, stay out of trouble. At the end of that, you can get your sentence expunged and wiped off your record, which is a fantastic opportunity.
Ironically, you can't do it with a DUI.
No, you cannot.
Which is really, you can do it with a violent crime, you can do it with a lot of different crimes, but a DUI is such a high-profile crime that we basically said that never goes off your record.
Right.
I think 10 years. I think it's 10 years. The second one, you have no enhancement after 10 years.
Right. It never really comes off.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, et cetera, and you get it done in a situation like that.
So our system is built to give folks lots and lots of chances before they ever go to prison, with diversion, different steps of probation, little bits of incremental jail time, unless, of course, you jump off into the deep end of the pool to start with and commit an aggravated robbery, in which case it's, get on the TDOC bus, right?
And the other problem, one of the problems I see in the system is overcharging. In other words, you commit something, you ride off the road. By the time you get to court, there's 7 warrants for you didn't turn left for the opera, you were mean to the officer, and that's kind of hard. And then you got to start dismissing stuff. The biggest problem, in my opinion, with the criminal justice system, I think a lot of people would say, is it's just a financial hazard. I mean, I get driving on suspended license, I can't pay my court costs, I get violated more court costs. I end up paying $40 a month for 7 years to get back to even, and all I did was, I drove without a license, and there's a lot of people driving without a license. Yeah. But that's not good, and they need to be punished. But I'm not sure the system works right in some of those areas. That's not your job. Your job is to administer the system. The legislatures are the ones that have to figure out how to do that, our legislators.
Yeah, and you can't get blood from a turnip, as my grandmother used to say. Folks that are really struggling to make ends meet and barely able to feed their children or do the other things they need to do, the court costs become a really distant second to all of that. But then that leaves you perpetually driving without a license, and then that leads to every time you get pulled over, you're going to jail. And
you're bound to do this. Bound to do whatever the law tells you to do.
Absolutely.
Medical marijuana.
Whatever the legislature decides to do.
I see a lot of courts. I wonder how much money that'll save in the system. I mean, I don't. And a prosecutor who will not be named once told me nobody's ever been arrested for staying in their home smoking marijuana. I mean, that never's a long term. But nobody goes beating your door down. I'm not advocating it, but I'm saying most of the people that get busted, and there are much more serious drugs than that. But it's against the law. You shouldn't do it. You can't drive a car and drink a beer. Why should you be able to drive a car and do this? But I think some things are probably going to change over the next few years. We had John Reagan on the show last year, and he was talking about, even though he's taking a hard stance on that stuff, that basically 2/3 of the states in this country now approve it. So that'll make it interesting for you. Do you have a medical permit? Do you not have a medical permit? Until that happens, you don't have any problems. But I think that's interesting. Any comments? It's better not to comment. I guess it's better not to comment. But that is a challenge. I think it's coming. I do think it's coming. I can't think of any other areas where that kind of stuff really deals.
I think Tennessee is its own conservative environment, and we're going to be really slow to adopt some of the things that they do up in New England or out on the West Coast. Sure. And we should really take our time and look at what's happening in those other states that have already done it, and what are the pros and cons. How's that actually playing out on the ground?
That's right. Studies, get the research, that's done. That's a bandy guy right there. Going to study it up. We just kicked the ball in Knoxville. We don't worry about it. Y'all will call these fancy plays. Listen, your reputation is outstanding. You're doing a great job. Thank you for coming on talking a little bit, because a lot of people haven't heard what you're doing, where you're at. Between the Lines, we'll be back next Thursday. Thank everybody in Anderson and Roane counties for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future. In a world that's changing fast. Because no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
The life of every child is precious. If you care for a child or teenager with a disability and have limited income and resources, they may qualify for monthly cash payments through the Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI-Kids to learn more. That's ssa.gov/SSI-Kids. Message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hesse. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man in foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost the legs and left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you.